Sometimes, baseball produces a player who does more than just score runs. A player who teaches an entire generation what a true leader really looks like. A player who becomes stronger under pressure instead of breaking down. And a name that New York fans eventually stopped calling just a player. They called him the captain. But the most surprising part of Derek Jeter's story isn't that he became a New York Yankees legend. The surprising part is that, at one point, he was just a young player with no guarantee that he would become one of the biggest names in baseball history. Then one day, he put on the famous Yankees pinstripes. And after that, baseball was never quite the same. Derek Jeter's journey began with a young boy who had only one dream in his heart: to make it to Major League Baseball. Jeter fell in love with baseball at an early age. He never relied on talent alone. Practice, discipline, and confidence gradually became a major part of his personality. But reaching professional baseball was never going to be easy. In 1992, the New York Yankees drafted Derek Jeter. At the time, very few people could have imagined that this decision would eventually become one of the most important decisions in franchise history. Jeter began his journey in the minor leagues. And there, he started showing everyone one important thing. This kid was not afraid of pressure. In 1995, Derek Jeter finally received his first opportunity in Major League Baseball. And then came 1996, the season that changed everything. Jeter became the Yankees' starting shortstop. For a young player, playing for a franchise as historic as the New York Yankees came with enormous pressure. Thousands of fans in the stadium, the media watching every move, criticism after every mistake, and expectations to win every game. But instead of allowing pressure to become a problem, Jeter turned it into part of his identity. In 1996, he won the American League Rookie of the Year award. But the real story was only beginning. That same season, the Yankees reached the World Series. And Derek Jeter won his first World Series championship. A young shortstop, in his first full Major League season. A world champion. But if you think Jeter's career was simply a story about trophies, the bigger picture was still ahead. Jeter's greatest strength was his consistency. Every season, he continued to prove one thing. Greatness isn't about having one amazing game. Greatness means performing at a high level for years. In 1998, the Yankees won the World Series again. Then again in 1999. And again in 2000. After 3 consecutive championships, Jeter had become one of the most recognizable young stars in baseball. But then something even bigger happened. In 2003, Derek Jeter was named captain of the New York Yankees. And this wasn't simply a title. It was a responsibility. Being the captain of the Yankees meant far more than an ordinary achievement. After legendary names like Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, Derek Jeter now held one of the most respected positions in the franchise. But Jeter didn't define leadership through speeches or showmanship. He defined it through his actions. When the game was close, when the pressure was enormous, or when the team was facing a difficult situation, Jeter's attitude usually remained the same. Calm. Focused. Professional. That's why fans eventually stopped thinking of him as simply Derek Jeter. To them, he became the captain. But Jeter's career also produced a moment that baseball fans still remember today. July 2004. A game against the Boston Red Sox. A ball was heading toward foul territory. Jeter sprinted toward the dugout to make the catch. And then, he dove into the crowd. His body crashed into the railing and the seats. But Jeter never let go of the ball. It wasn't just a catch. It was a symbol of Derek Jeter's mentality. He played every ball as if it could be the final ball of the game. And perhaps that's exactly why fans connected with him so deeply. But every hero's baseball story also has difficult moments. Injuries affected Jeter as well. As he got older, his body was no longer the same. But he adapted his game. Then, in 2012, a serious ankle injury created another major challenge in his career. Some people believe Jeter's best days might already be behind him. But Derek Jeter surprised everyone once again. He came back and continued his journey. 2014, his final MLB season. And then came the moment Yankees fans both feared and had been waiting for. Derek Jeter's final game at Yankee Stadium. Thousands of fans stood for him. A player who had spent nearly 2 decades playing in that stadium was now stepping onto the field for the final time. And then, Jeter created a moment that felt like something straight out of a Hollywood movie. A base hit. The winning run scored. Yankees Stadium erupted. Fans were cheering. His teammates surrounded him. And one chapter officially came to an end. But Derek Jeter's career didn't end with that farewell moment. He finished his career with more than 3,000 hits, 5 World Series championships, multiple All-Star selections, and a permanent place in Yankees history. But more important than the numbers was his impact. Derek Jeter represented professionalism during one of baseball's most demanding eras. He showed fans that being a superstar doesn't mean you have to be loud all the time. Sometimes, leadership simply means this. When your team needs you, you are there. Jeter represented the New York Yankees not only through his batting, but through his character. That's why even after retirement, his name remained deeply connected to baseball. In 2017, the Yankees retired his famous number 2. And in 2020, Derek Jeter was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. A career journey that once seemed almost impossible, from a young shortstop to the captain of the Yankees, from a rookie to a World Series champion, and from a baseball player to a baseball icon. But perhaps the most powerful lesson from Derek Jeter's story is this: greatness isn't always about being the most talented person in the room. Sometimes, greatness means giving your best every single day, staying calm under pressure, putting the team ahead of yourself, and when the entire world is watching you, still doing what you have always done. That's why Derek Jeter wasn't simply the Yankees shortstop. He became an example for an entire generation, a player whose name was written into baseball history not only because of his statistics, but because of his character. And when people remember the greatest names in New York Yankees history, one name will always stand among them: Derek Jeter, the captain. And perhaps the most interesting thing is this: Jeter didn't change baseball only with his bat and glove. He reminded baseball that a true captain remains a captain even after retirement. If you enjoyed Derek Jeter's journey, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. What is your most unforgettable Derek Jeter moment? Because baseball history has many legends, but there was only one: the captain, champion, and from a baseball player to a baseball icon. But perhaps the most powerful lesson from Derek Jeter's story is this: greatness isn't always about being the most talented person in the room. Sometimes, greatness means giving your best every single day, staying calm under pressure, putting the team ahead of yourself, and when the entire world is watching you, still doing what you have always done. That's why Derek Jeter wasn't simply the Yankees shortstop. He became an example for an entire generation, a player whose name was written into baseball history not only because of his statistics, but because of his character. And when people remember the greatest names in New York Yankees history, one name will always stand among them: Derek Jeter, the captain. And perhaps the most interesting thing is this: Jeter didn't change baseball only with his bat and glove. He reminded baseball that a true captain remains a captain even after retirement. If you enjoyed Derek Jeter's journey, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. What is your most unforgettable Derek Jeter moment? Because baseball history has many legends, but there was only one: the captain,